All right, welcome back to part 2 of figuring out these rod bearings. So before I started the video, I actually ended up getting the pan off, and it's over here in the oil pan, just kind of draining out, just so I can see if there's any more stuff in the pan. It looks like there were a couple like decently big metal shavings in there, which I don't know if I should expect it or not. Just because, like I said before, it's making more power, so it's going to put a lot more stress on the engine. So, but I'll take you underneath and we'll see what we can see so far. Not going to see a lot. The oil pump is still on, and so is the windage tray. So, all right. So, like I said, it's off. Gonna have to take off the oil pump nut here, so I'm gonna have to cut the safety wire. I've got more safety wires, so I can redo it after I get it off and go to put it back on. Take the pump off with the 3 bolts. One back there for the pickup tube that's about right there, along with this windage tray, and then I can start popping off the rod caps and try to get the bearings out. So we'll do that real quick and I'll be right back. All right, there we go. So we got all the stuff out of the way, because you can see all the rods and everything. At first glance, it doesn't look like anything got too hot. Normally you'd see like some discoloration, so like this area right here, it would turn different colors if it got real hot. So that's cylinder 3, cylinder 2, and cylinder 1 up there. I can't really see it just yet because I haven't pulled the light closer, but so far all the rod journals look in decent shape. Obviously 1 and 6 are at their highest right now, so you can't really see them, but sometimes even if the rod bearings are bad, the caps will change color as well. Again, can't really see that one very well, but so far it looks good because it's still silvery on the counterweight there. Or not the counterweight, but the whatever you want to call it, the end where you grind it off to balance them. But all these look pretty good at first glance. So I'm gonna start popping caps off and start inspecting the bearings. I did play with them a little bit. You can see there's side to side movement, which there will be, just because you can see the oil kind of pushing out of there, so that's a good sign. But all these have a little bit of movement this way. I was playing with them, trying to push them this way and up into the cylinder, and so far I can't notice any movement in that direction. So, but I'm gonna pop some caps off and we'll get all the bearing shells laid out and we'll figure that out. All right, we've got all the rod caps off, everything out. I looked at these bearings. I really can't find anything wrong with them. There's no deep gouges, nothing real telling of any kind of wear that shouldn't be there. They're all very clean. Again, no grooves or anything that I can catch with a fingernail, and I mean, they all look good. So I think, which kind of sucks, because now I'm kind of thinking I literally parked this car just because the balancer was loose, which really sucks, but probably a good thing I did all this. Don't mind that bolt there, it's just sitting there to keep the rod from falling against the side there. But again, I don't see anything wrong. If it was a crank bearing, you would kind of see the same thing. It would be like kind of turning bluish in color, which all these are a nice golden brown, which just means they're oil soaked, but everything else appears to be perfectly fine. So I'm wondering if the shavings are left over from something, or if maybe like cam's getting wiped out up top, but I don't think so, because it ran fine other than the knock. It idled perfectly. It didn't have any misses or anything like that, or weird other issues, but everything looks to be fine. So let me show you the bearings real quick. All right, so these are the bearings. They're all labeled in order, everything, bottom. So these are the top. So they look about what I would expect for an engine with this kind of mileage on it. You kind of see the little bit of wear in here, but there's nothing too telling of a rod knock, anything like that. The only thing I really found was this one has a little bit of a groove in it. You can kind of see as I move it. None of the other ones really had that. They all look pretty normal. They're pretty smooth. Do the fingernail test, you don't catch anything on any of these. This one, it ever so slightly catches, so that's not even really much of a concern for me. But yeah, so I mean, these look fine. Nothing with the caps. Obviously, they're the nice color too. None of them are discolored on this section here, telling me that they got hot or anything. They all look pretty normal. So, since those look good, I'm actually gonna start putting the new bearings in. I've got plastic gauge. So I'll start throwing the new bearings in and torquing those to spec, checking to make sure the clearances are correct, and then after that, it's just the reverse of what I've already done. So I'm covered in oil, grease and stuff. I'm gonna get a snack and then come back out here. It's about 8 o'clock right now. So, yeah, I'm gonna grab a snack, grab the plastic gauge, and we'll start installing those again. All right, so I've got all but one of these rod caps torqued back into place. You can see this one's loose. So I just did plastic gauge on this one. I've already done all the other ones. All of the other ones, they came into spec. They were about 1.5 thousandths to 2 thousandths right where they're supposed to be. So this is the last one I need to do, so I'm gonna check it with you guys. So all you do is torque this with the torque sequence that you're going to finish torquing it with when you actually go to install it back into the car. So all you're gonna do is, like I said, torque it with that piece of plastic gauge in there, and then you take the cap back off. So you loosen your bolts, you wiggle this, take it back off, pull the bolts out real quick. Try to do this with one hand without dropping anything. So there's your bolts. Hold that real quick, put the bolts down. All right, so you pull your cap off, and it should have this nice line in it, which looks like it moved, but still enough there to be able to tell what it is. Must have spun as I was putting the bearing on. Not a big problem. But on all these little plastic gauge things, there's this little guy. So all you're gonna do is hold it up to here and see which one's closest, which in this case, we want this one. So the closest one to it, if I can get it in there, is pretty close to 15 thousandths. It's a little over 2, but right in between the two. So we know it's good there. So that was kind of crappy. All the other ones they're supposed to be straight across. All the other ones were. This one, for some reason, must have hit there and twisted it while I was putting it in. But so those are all the right clearance. So I'm just gonna go ahead and reinstall this rod cap. And then, like I said, that is all of them. All of them went in pretty easily, no problems, all within spec. So gonna clean off all this stuff real quick, reinstall that rod cap, and then actually gonna call it a night since it's almost 11 o'clock here. So I'll see you in just a second. All right, so all that is all set now. Everything is torqued to spec. The spec for these is actually 5 Newton meters, which is around 44 inch-pounds, and then 20 Newton meters, which comes out to around, I forget what I've got the torque wrench set to. I think it's about 15 foot-pounds. So I did have to switch between an inch-pound torque wrench and a regular torque wrench. But then it is 70 degrees, so you do 3 steps. So it's 5 Newton meters, 20 Newton meters, and then 70 degrees. And then those are torqued to spec. So I did reuse the bolts because unfortunately the ones I ordered, even though they match the part number, they are all way too short. So these ones, when you put them in, they only have probably like 7 millimeters of from the bottom of the head of the bolt here to like this mating surface. So the other ones were like 5-6 millimeters shorter, so they would not have had nearly enough thread engagement. So I ended up using those. I reused the rod bolts, which should be fine. I know people have reused them before and had no issues as long as you torque them properly, which I did. So shouldn't have any issues there, but I'm gonna call it a night. I'll put the oil pump and the windage tray and everything back in either tomorrow or the day after, and then get everything back together and hopefully get this thing started. and pray that there's no more knocking noise. So, all right. So if you can't tell from all the crap all over my face, it's been a pretty long night. I already worked 8 hours today, plus came home, did this for about 6, so I'm pretty exhausted now. So got quite the mess to pick up and organize, but I'll get that tomorrow, or like I said, the day after. It just depends on when I have time. I probably will do it tomorrow. I think I should have time, but hopefully get the oil pan back in, subframe, get all the suspension back in, and then finally concentrate on some other parts of the car. I do have a ton of parts stockpiled, so there will be quite a few things. I've got coilovers, door panels, Hard Motorsports door panels, the ABS plastic ones, the ones like Jimmy Oaks used, and then quite a few other things, little details here and there, but you'll have to watch the videos coming up to see all that stuff. But other than that, I'm gonna call it a night here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.